if anybody here knows anything about a PowerPoint, I think at some point we could use a PowerPoint to make more presentations and possibly better. I think it'd open up another field or whatever. And by the way, if anybody here is at all interested in being on the board here, it would be very much appreciated, and honest, you probably, hopefully will get more out of it than you put into it. It really, if we have enough board members, it isn't a lot of work for anybody. That's, well, when I'm president of way too many groups, that's the way I work. Delegate stuff, and there's enough people that nobody has to really do a lot. Anyway, I got a email a while back about levitation, and this interests me. So I explored it, and it talks about the ley lines of the earth and ley lines and everything. And there was some, and then they talk about the pyramids, which have been, I've studied them for a long time. At some point I'd like to study them here and see if there is energy there, and I'm pretty sure there is. But anyway, to do this we need board members to help do it. Okay, the program this evening, I think that's all I had. And I think from now on we are supposed to advertise ahead of time that we're going to have a board meeting. We will just say in our notes that we're going to have a board meeting after every meeting. For if we do it every time for 10 minutes is enough. Where we've done it before, it was very infrequent and we accomplished very little in a lot of time, and that's not good. It needs to be done. Anyway, at this time, we're going to have Steve MacDonald, and he originated in Long Island and worked in California and whatever. He's been in People magazine and on TV and radio shows, and he also does phone readings. And we were supposed to have Patricia Sneed, and unfortunately she has the flu, which we appreciate the fact she didn't come and bring it to us.
Yes.
And so anyway, she isn't going to be here. And then we have Allie Westrick over here. She has been in this thing forever, from I think it said age 5, and she is now working on a book to tell us all about her experiences. So at this time, I don't know, do we flip a coin or what? Who goes first?
Well, I have to go first.
You have to?
Yes, you should go
Okay.
Because I know the outcome of the coin flip, so.
Okay. Well, at this time I will
Okay, just
turn
being
it over to
flippant there,
them.
okay. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the remainder of 2018. There's about 49 weeks left in the year. Am I right? Okay. You probably want to know what's going to happen in the world during this crazy year. Last year was a doozy, and the year before that was insane. Well, this year is going to be, I hate to disappoint you all, it won't be anywhere nearly as exciting as the last 2 years. There'll still be areas where things are just, where people are just going crazy and doing stupid things, but the overall feeling of this year is that of recovery, that we're gradually cooler minds are prevailing. And I think the
last
I don't remember where it's
gradually.
gradually the world, well, there's going to be just a change in the politics of America come November. The November elections will usher in a different era politically for us.
Oh, good.
And so there's going to be a lot of improvements, a lot of redressing of a lot of the the flaws of the last year. And this especially, well, I don't want to go into it too much. But a couple of areas that might be of interest to you, because these are things that you don't have control over. There's nothing you can do to change what's going to happen in these particular areas. One of them is the weather. We had some pretty strong weather this past year. My home got flooded twice, the basement got flooded twice last year, and I predicted there would be more flooding, if you remember. This year we're going to have quite a bit of rain, and it's going to come down in several different times. I think we're going to have another powerful rain event in April, and those showers will bring a lot of May flowers, but there's going to be more rain in May. And then there's going to be another wave in the tail end of June. So we're looking at a very wet time for the Kansas City area. Also, if you're worried about major storms, there could be a powerful windstorm, whatever that is, coming through in April. I think it's going to affect Johnson County, Kansas, and Jackson County, Missouri, and might even continue on for another several miles. I don't know if anyone's going to be directly in the path of this, but I kind of have a vibe on that. If any of you here drive electric vehicles, like I don't know, Prius or a Volt or anything like that, or if you're lucky, a Tesla, they can be pretty reliable, but I have a feeling that this year there's going to be a major recall of one of those vehicles, and it might affect somebody who has it. And I think it might be they figured out that something is defective in the overall wiring, and they may have to redesign some of that. That probably won't affect too many people. I don't know if anyone here has school kids, school-age children. See a show of nobody's hands. Okay.
Grandchildren.
Grandchildren.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
That's good. That's how grand. Well, I can tell you this, that those generations are going to be obtaining a very different format of education than you had. And it's going to continue on. There's going to be a lot more online education that's going to be folded into classroom education. And there's going to be some type of hybridizing of homeschooling with regular classroom learning. They both, right now it's been where those who went out and did homeschooling had to borrow a lot of the ideas from the regular classroom. Well, this is where it might even flow back from another direction, where people might pick up on some of the virtues of homeschooling, whatever those are, and try to introduce that into the public school. And this wouldn't be done right away. It would be something that they phase in little by little. Now, I do have something to tell you that might be very jarring to coin collectors, I kind of have a feeling that the penny, the 1 cent coin, is going to go extinct in the next 5 years. And, there'll be a reason for it. They'll still have the existing ones, but they're not going to continue to mint new penny coins because it costs too much. And I have a feeling that's going to be the one thing that coin collectors are going to be, I guess, stocking up on, is the existing copper pennies. And even now, the new ones are not really copper. Politics. Are there any politics people here that care the least bit about politics? Political, one or two of you, 3 or 4 of you? Okay, well, I'm not the expert on this, but psychically speaking, I've hit on a few things here. And in recent years, I've found that I do have a feeling for certain, the things like the palace intrigue at the White House. There's a lot of it going on. And we know about the potential shutdown of the government if the DACA thing is, and all of the wall isn't built, they're going to shut down, they're going to blame, each party's going to blame the other. Right now, I think that could even be just another big distraction, because the real heat is what's going on in the financing end of things. And there's going to be a big, it's ongoing, the inquiry into the Russian thing, but also possible money laundering tied in with this. And I have a feeling that the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, is going to be leaving the administration at some point in the next 3 months. And I don't think he's going to be officially drummed out. I think it's going to be where he just sort of backs out and they let him save face. But he still will have a lot to answer for in the money investigations. Okay, now, if anyone is interested in aliens and UFOs, does anybody find that interesting? Okay, good. What planets are you from, by the way? Okay. I'm from Earth, last I checked. I believe, though, that I've known a few people who've actually seen legitimate UFOs that are not just swamp gas or a flock of birds flying around in some murmuration or anything. The actual UFOs, there's going to be an actual one coming around in February. I'm not sure the date, but I'm guessing right now it'll be around the 20th. And it'll be, I don't think it's hovering, I think it's buzzing. It's buzzing through, but it's not going in such a blur that you can't tell it's a real UFO. So we're looking at a lot of people spotting it, and also the possibility that the occupants of the UFO, or whoever's managing the UFO, might have a power to block certain people from being able to know it's there. They may have something to do with very advanced abilities to interfere with consciousness or with perception. The one thing that people don't know about aliens is that they are extremely highly conscious. They have consciousness that you wouldn't even you can't believe how conscious they are. And they can use that consciousness in such a way as to help propel their UFOs. It's not all just the laws of physics. It's something that's way more abstract than that, even further. So that's what we're dealing with. I think it's exciting too, because the government the powers that be are gradually letting disclosure take place. It's not going to happen in one fell swoop. It's going to happen in dribs and drabs. Oh, the Royals, the Kansas City Royals. Does anyone care about baseball anymore? Everyone. Okay. Yeah, they're going to have, even though they're prime players or they're free agents have all kind of flown the coop, there will be surprising strength in the roster this year. And I think by the middle of the year, they're going to make more of a comeback. There's something about it. The fact that they don't have all the marquee players anymore, it's still going to be really, really strong. And it's only baseball, so I think that when people realize that even though it's this big, lucrative franchise, it's still just baseball. It's a kid's game, and they're gonna play their hearts out with that in mind. Okay, what else do we have to say? As far as like last year, we had major Category 5 hurricanes, and those, I know someone who predicted them. We're going to have at least one Category 5 that strikes the U.S. again, and that little swath somewhere between Texas and the Carolinas. My gut feeling here is it's going to make a direct hit again in the Texas area. So we could have another Harvey Part 2, and get to see those weathermen standing in the hurricane, just kind of barely clinging to holding on. Then we're going to see a lot of that again, which I find amusing. Now we have online. Has anybody played those trivia games? Those HQ online games? You know what they are? Well, okay. You watch Jeopardy? Anyone? Okay, it's sort of like a Jeopardy type of trivia thing, and you can win $2,000, and it's done online. You download the thing, and you can win $2,000. And anyway, online competitions are going to expand, and you'll hear it'll get on more people's radar. And you'll do well. If you're good at that stuff, you can make a lot of money. Speaking of money, most people here use dollars and cents and whatever else they have. There's going to be a new, well, we already have cryptocurrencies like Bitcoin and something else and something else. That's going to that's going to be very much the main thing in 5 to 10 years. A lot of regular paper currency and regular dollars and cents will no longer carry the same importance, because these digital currencies are going to continue to evolve, and you'll be able to select your own currency. Imagine if you could go anywhere and pay with your own personal currency that you helped create. Well, there's going to be a lot of things there's going to be like these online currency exchanges that will enable that. So the whole future of money is going to evolve, and regular dollars are going to go the way of the buggy whip. The Mueller investigation. Now here's the political thing again. I mentioned that before. I just want to make a point that the Mueller investigation is going to turn up the heat on the White House, on the president, especially in March. I think that's where you're going to see a lot of headlines being made out of that, and there could be some weird things. There could be some major crisis that comes out of this, because of, it seems like whenever they put the screws too much, there's another distraction that happens, and we'll see what happens there. Well, I said most of the things I wanted to say. I want you to know about the weather, and I want you to know about what's going on in those things. There's one thing I'm reluctant to say, though, and I kind of feel like I might be doing you a disservice by saying this. But someone in this room is going to have a job change in the middle of March. I'm not saying who it is. I know who it is, but I'm not saying. And it could even be me. But I don't think it's a bad thing. I just see that perhaps whatever career they have, it might require them to try something new because of either burnout or the circumstances. It becomes untenable to keep the job. Earthquakes in Vermont, Scotland, and Greece coming around in a couple this year. That's something to look forward to. And also a major change in the British royalty in May. My collar's been up all the time. So we're looking at a change in the royalty. If you follow the royal family, well, May is going to be a turning point for that. Also, a former U.S. president, and there's about 5 of them that I can name. I see one of them having a serious heart condition or a stroke or something in the month of July, and that could be, some of them are way up there in age. I think it's one of the older ones. Let's see, what else do I want to tell you? Tornadoes, I sort of alluded to that. I didn't want to say it too specifically, but I would just make sure that you have all your protections in place for any severe weather. I guess that's all I have. Oh, one more thing, and this is one of those things, if you notice there's been a recall of lettuce and certain produce. There's going to be another major problem. I think it's one of those, instead of E. coli, I think this time it's going to be another case of listeria coming around in fruit. And this happens every so years, but I think this year there will be a lot of listeria coming through. And it might be stuff that emanates from the Colorado or Nebraska. Any fruit grown in those areas might be contaminated. On that happy note, I'm going to turn it over to Allie. Thank you.
Hi, everyone. It's an honor for me to be here, and thanks for having me. So, 2018 is kind of a mix for me. 2019, I think, is going to be, I think things are going to amp up more in 2019, but what I love about 2018 is almost a rebirth of spiritualism. Almost like the Victorian movement of spiritualism, but without the shady stuff that happened, but people kind of moving more towards that, or sort of relying more on their own spiritual side to sort of guide them along the way. And I say that because what I saw was a lot of breaking down of large institutions, whether it be political, And I also got a lot of organized religions with churches, specifically the mega churches, but this will hit on a lot of other religions. And I know this is kind of a hot button to talk about, but what I saw was, what's leading to this was a lot of coming out of children being molested or fraud happening in these institutions. And so just like with what happened in Hollywood, I think it's going to bleed over, and this is the next big thing that's going to get hit with this, that people can feel like, okay, well now I can talk because these other people are talking and it's safe for me. And I think it's going to start trickling in, and then it's going to hit pretty big. So once some of these people are investigated, they'll see that there's other things that they may have been doing that weren't good. So everyone's going to kind of be looking for a place to kind of, I don't know, they're going to be looking inside of themselves instead of looking towards other people to find their path. And it's the same with the White House, you know, breaking down of large institutions, things that have always been there that are traditional, that people are used to, that are solid. Those things aren't going to be solid anymore. There's going to be a lot of changes. So while this good thing is happening spiritually, there will be people that will break under the stress of these situations. I do see 2018 as being a record year for mass shootings and violence in those situations, just because people will crack. That's just kind of the nature of things. There's going to be a lot of bigger things happening in 2018. And I also did see the start of chemical attacks. I saw one in the United States, either in Chicago or New York, busy city, like in a subway or something like that. And then there's going to be one overseas that involves something like anthrax or something like that. It's going to be the start of that. I only saw 2 for 2018, so hopefully I think 2019 might get a little more crazy. But for now, that's all I saw with that. Another thing that might cause people to crack a little bit is I also saw a UFO coming around that it's going to be, you see, I was like, okay, so you know, yeah, you know, it's like, with the release of that video by the U.S. military recently, it's like people were like, they saw that and they're like, oh, that's interesting, but nobody really freaked out about it. I mean, it's like we've been warmed up to this for quite a while. Even in Yahoo News, you'll catch a little bleep about, is there alien life? And it's just kind of getting people used to that idea. But I think what's going to happen is a large craft will be parked somewhere for a little while, and a lot of people are going to see it and video it, and there's going to be no getting around the fact that that's what that is. I didn't see any particular life forms coming out. I don't know which species of alien we're talking about, and unfortunately I don't know enough about it. I know that there's various kinds, most of them are good, you know, but
Or X-Files.
exactly.
Choose out.
Dang it. But some people may see that and their whole belief system is going to crash because they see something like that and they can't process it. So people are going to be forced to kind of think outside the box now for some things. And I do believe that there will be other UFO sightings after that one. It's going to be more common, more prevalent, more interaction. Okay. I did see something with CERN, but it's kind of unclear on what I saw. I believe that CERN either has made this discovery or is on the verge of this discovery. They're kind of waiting on some information. They've made a major discovery, or they're going to, and it will affect how we live, how we think of our own existence. And I don't think that they're going to necessarily release it to the public, and if they do, it's going to be a very watered down, tame sort of thing that they might just announce, and they're going to be like, well, it's not a big deal, but it is going to be a very, very big deal. So I think it will prove some quantum theories that may shock people, and again, may push people over the edge, or may force people to rethink how they live their lives. I also saw major breakthroughs with cancer and cancer treatments, specifically with breast cancer and brain cancer, and what I saw was that there is some kind of weird similarity between the two, but I don't know what that similarity is, but for some reason it can be, those two specifically can be treated in a similar way. And I do believe that cancer will be eradicated in the future, in my lifetime for sure. But it's going to start there, and I do believe we're going to see major improvements with that in 2018. I didn't see any World War III this year, but I did see there's going to be smaller wars breaking out. And again, more with the chemical weapons and such, but I don't see much of that here. We've got our own issues to deal with, but there's always going to be an outbreak of violence somewhere with something. But I was just glad I didn't see any World War III, because I had to sit with that for a moment. When I did the 2017 predictions at Aquarius, I said that we would get close to World War III, but it wouldn't happen. So I feel like we've kind of pushed away from that a bit. I did see a super flu outbreak that will be strong and resistant, and it might actually kill a few people. Not as severe as something like the Spanish flu, but it's something that would raise the eyebrows of health professionals on really how to cure this, because I think it would be like vaccine resistant as well, and it could spread rapidly just like a regular flu. So I did see that. Another thing was AI technology making major advances this year, and I think more so even this year than 2019. And I did see more happening with the microchip. I think that more children will be introduced to microchip technology just because of child sex trafficking, kidnappings, things that happen with children when they go missing. So it's going to be used in an effort to keep children safe, and teenagers as well that also go through this, because a cell phone, even though it's got GPS on it or whatever, cell phones die, they break, they get taken. So I think the microchip is going to be another alternative to that. I did have some political stuff in here, but I didn't want to get too political. It's just that there's going to be some major changes. I agree with Steve when he talked about, 2018 is going to bring some major changes on how things are done right now. It's going to kind of flip a little bit. I saw another smaller country that has dealings with Trump that may come forward that would have very damaging evidence with him. They haven't come forward yet. I don't know if they will, but it's a smaller country, kind of, I'm not good with geography and I apologize, kind of near the Russia scope area. So that's what I did see with that. This 2018 will be the year of earthquakes. So we will see a lot more of those here and overseas. I did see 2 volcanoes erupting overseas. One might be in Italy. So they're not going to be massive super volcanoes. They will be like medium sized. They will get me attention. I saw a lot of pairings with things, a lot of things in twos happening, and I don't know. I know a little bit about numerology, enough to know that 2018 is actually an 11 year, and 11, even though you don't break down an 11 because it's a God number, but it does break down into 2. So I think there's some kind of relevance with that. Overall, I think though that this year will hearken a new time for people spiritually to really go within and rely on themselves for information and using their intuition and their own abilities. And it's just a matter of people wanting to work on that. So it's going to be an important year, aside from everything else that could happen, especially with alien life. I mean, that opens whole new doors, especially with psychic ability and that. And that brings me to my last thing, which is it's happening now. There's a lot more spiritual, psychic children being born at this time. And I know because I mentor some of them and I help their parents because their parents don't know what to do, how to raise their kids when their children are saying things that they're like, what does this mean? So parents contact me and ask me about those things, and I'm just seeing a huge influx in children that are like this, that have very old souls, that are very spiritual and very psychically gifted. So if you see your grandchildren or children or whatever, that's going to keep increasing. There's a reason behind it. I do believe that it's alien influenced. So we'll see where that goes. But that's what I have for you guys.
Can I ask a question? Are you all Democrats or Republicans? Or do you choose not to say?
I'm a Whig.
Yeah, I'm an observer.
You don't want to say it.
I'm a Tory. No. I don't label
You both
myself.
sound like Democrats. I'm just curious why.
You know what Democrats are? I don't know.
I was told, somebody asked me that before, and I was told I was more of an independent, but
I usually vote for the losing candidates just to make them feel better.
Yeah, we do that. Just because you're a liberal doesn't mean you're a Democrat. Because I like free thinking,
I like rethinking too.
but I would vote for whatever.
Well, I'm either a demagogue or a repugnant, in my opinion.
I think it depends on the candidate too. You know, I kind of want to look at somebody who's the most competent, you know, but
I think
Say I'm a
Democrats are more
Democrat,
psychic.
but I'm not, well, I wouldn't always believe.
This is sort of, I think people who kind of fall on the liberal end of it are a little bit more intuitive and psychic. I've yet to meet somebody who was an arch conservative who had spectacular psychic ability.
they're more grounders though, I've noticed. Like people at ground, that are ground energy.
Oh. Yeah.
My mom says she came from the Pleiades. She lived to be 94. She went to all the one of the largest UFO conferences in Missouri. She went every year, and she was a Republican.
Oh, wow.
Really?
To put all this in perspective.
That's great.
Yeah, and went to church
Really?
every Sunday. I mean, instead, but some of them wasn't quite in line with solid Christians.
Right.
Yeah, the UFO things in Eureka, Arkansas. The people come from England. We've had people from Brazil, we've had people from all over the world come to Eureka Springs, Arkansas
Oh, I love Eureka Springs.
in April for their UFO conference. It's usually late.
Really?
It's amazing, absolutely amazing. And yeah, we had one, he said one of them was a tall chicken, lives in Brazil in the ocean. I mean, we get some really good stories.
How interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm more in the paranormal side with spirit communication. I work on a paranormal team, so.
Did you see the one where they send out, I don't know what it is, it's like a box and it has dots and it's international language, or mathematical language, and it has your DNA, this is our good human DNA, and then it has like 4 different things that make us who we are. And they sent it out, like a radio signal, and they got a response back, but it didn't land in England. Somehow it was picked up in Brazil or South America or something. And when it came back, it was the same format, and the DNA was alien. And it answered all of the questions. I mean, there's some fascinating things, but because it didn't come back to the country, now if they're millions of miles away, it'd be pretty hard to pinpoint the country. So the scientists said, oh no, it really wasn't an answer. But we've been getting answers for
Years.
Yes, and there's quite a, we're going to talk